Okay, let's call it to order. They told me I got to do that so the video works. Sorry. City Clerk, you want to call the roll?
Councilmember Agency Director Mann.
Present.
Marcus.
Here.
Cilio.
Is here.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Smith.
Here.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Councilwoman Marquez is doing the...
Pastor Pickens.
Pastor Pickens, is he here? Oh, there you are.
Here and present and accounted for.
Good.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
Council. Let us bow our heads and pray. Our dear Heavenly Father, we come before you today in the name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Father, we thank you for the city of Lancaster. We thank you, Father, for the mayor of this city. We thank you for the council persons. We thank you for the people that are here today, Father, to take care of the business that is at hand. We pray that you would temper our decisions and that you would guide each of our thoughts for the betterment of the city of Lancaster. I pray, Father, in Jesus' name, that we would not meander in uncertainty concerning the affairs of this city, but that, Father, we would forget what is behind us and that we would proceed and pursue that which is before us, and that the council that is before us, Father, that they would minister in their particular areas of expertise as you would have them to. You said that we are to pray for all of those that be in authority, and that includes our council members. We pray for each of them. We pray for their families, and we thank you for the time that they are devoting for the betterment of the city of Lancaster and its citizens. And we thank you for it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pastor. Oh, the pledge. You want to lead us?
Repeat after me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, we have presentations. Is Mayor Hearns here? You know, we've been trying to... there you are. We have something for you. For you. Well, I guess I ought to keep the box for you, too. Is this real? Mayor Hearns, for 18 years of service, you are the first recipient, I believe, is that right? First recipient of the key to the city. Thank you. Wait a minute, got a pull in my belly. Hold on. Okay. Oh. Thank you.
Mayor and council, to all of you, I really appreciate this. Not that I've earned it, because I shared those 18 years with all I had in me, with every muscle in my body, and every thought that I could come up with, and any information I could get from anyone else that I thought would help my city. I did that. But I did that not to receive anything. It's my community. But I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for all of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you so very much. Mark, my new city manager, thank you so very much, and all of you. Thank all of you.
And Mr. Norton, I think it's your turn.
Mr. Mayor, at this time I'd like to introduce Patricia Garibay, who is a recreation supervisor for the city, and she is going to guide us through the Youth Commission recognition and the Teen Spotlight Awards. Patricia?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Paris, council, staff, and public. As Lyle mentioned, my name is Patty Garibay, and I've had the pleasure of working with this year's Youth Commission. I feel privileged to have worked with this wonderful group of students, and since tonight marks the end of their term, I'd like to take a few minutes to share background on the Youth Commission and share some of this group's accomplishments. The Lancaster Youth Commission was started over 10 years ago by the council to provide young people with a forum to give their input on various issues. Students are nominated by school administrators and serve a school year term that lasts from October to June. One student is nominated and selected from each of our local high schools. The commission meets monthly to discuss issues and to complete their work project plan. The students we are honoring today were nominated and selected to be commissioners based on their character and leadership abilities. Historically, the Youth Commission has been made up of young people who are making a positive impact in the community. They are bright and leaders among their peers. This year's commission was no exception. We had a diverse group of young people who were eager to volunteer and to learn about the city's functions. This year's commission helped facilitate a variety of community projects. They were most proud of their work during the Martin Luther King Day of Service. Commissioners gathered their friends and family and headed to Sky Tower Park, where they helped plant flowers and painted the park's activity building. Through this experience, commissioners planted a seed in their peers that encouraged service and commitment to their community. Commissioners also helped facilitate this year's Youth in Government program. Participating in Youth in Government gave commissioners an in-depth look at government and gave them the opportunity to experience life as a council member. Everyone realized that while the position is rewarding, it comes with its challenges. Working with young people on the right track is encouraging. These students all have bright futures ahead of them, and I look forward to seeing the good work that they will do as they continue to grow. I would like to thank each student for their commitment and for giving me the opportunity to learn with them this year. At this point, I'd like to ask Mayor Paris to join me to present our outgoing youth commissioners with a certificate thanking them for their good work this year.
Shall we bring them all up and do it all at one time?
I can go ahead and call out the names.
Okay, before we do that, let's read it. Whereas, and Briar Rose Jacobson is the first one, but we have one for all of you, so I'll just read the first one. Who's Briar? Hi, come on up. Whereas Briar Rose is being recognized by the City of Lancaster's Park and Recreation and Arts Department for her service to the Youth Commission, whereas Briar Rose, being one of 5 commissioners, acted in an advisory capacity to the City Council on community issues having a direct and indirect effect on youth, whereas Briar Rose contributed to the organization and implementation of the Youth in Government program, whereas Briar Rose collaborated with her fellow commissioners to nominate and recognize outstanding students with Teen Spotlight Commendation, whereas Briar Rose kept informed about the progress and development of the community teen activities and programs, including social service events. Now therefore, the City Council does hereby commend Briar Rose Jacobson, City of Lancaster Youth Commission. And it was signed by all of the City Council, and that's the first one of these I've seen so far. So I guess that's extra special. Thank you. Here we go. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we have Ritzy Mullins. Do you want me to read it again? Thank you very much. And we have Rebecca Rice. Nadia Francis. Okay. Thank you very much. Nick Saracho? Saracho. Okay, thank you. Hey, you're going to the cheering section. And Gardic Martirosian? And thank you very much. Can I get a picture? Good. Thank you.
Parents, if you want to come up, feel free to walk up.
Get a lot closer together. Can I ask you to stand over on this side? Balance things out.
Okay.
And if you can all turn your the poster so they're proper. Your combination. That's right.
Okay, I want this one on the internet, okay?
Yes, sir. Try one.
Are you smiling? Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Actually, as our last order of business is the Spotlight Awards, and I'm going to say
Okay, good. You don't need me for that, do you? Okay, thank you.
So we're here to present the Teen Spotlight Awards. Basically what these awards are teenage students recognizing their peers. So for each individual school, each of us nominated one person who we thought best exemplified something that we thought was important in our community or an individual. So the person I'm here to present today is Taylor Shirk. The reason I nominated Taylor was because I thought he was my class president, senior class president at Fairclay High School this year, and I just thought he did a fantastic job, did a great job of getting our message across to the faculty and our peers and the school as a whole. And just I know Taylor on a personal level, and he's one of the most unselfish, nicest human beings I've ever met. And I feel like he'll go far, and I just wanted to kind of recognize him in a different way. He'll be at Berkeley next year, and I wish him all the best. So,
Today, you hear a lot more about autism. You may even know someone who has a child with autism. If not, chances are that you will, since 1 out of every 150 children are now being diagnosed with this disability. Having autism is hard enough. Not trying being blind with autism. That is what our recipient has been challenged with to get along in this world, conforming to our norms while trying to achieve independence and self-sufficiency. Our recipient recently graduated from Quartzel High School. He aspires to write children's books. For his senior project, he hooked up with the Antelope Valley newspaper editor and compiled 4 children's books geared towards 5- and 6-year-olds, focusing on the importance of reading to the very young. His goal is to get kids back interested in books, since kids these days are engrossed in video games and computers. He reached out into the community by reading to over 200 kindergarten children at both Nancy Corey Elementary and Valley View Elementary. Lastly, he was also able to teach these children that we are all differently abled and that we all have our strengths and weaknesses, but ultimately we should get along no matter what. He will be attending AV colleges while taking English courses as he pushes forward with his dream of getting his children's books published. He is presently searching for an illustrator that can make his books come alive visually, a challenge I doubt that will stop him. I'm proud to be able to give a Special Achievement Award tonight to a diligent and inspiring resident of the Antelope Valley, my brother, Matthew Sriracha.
I'm going to be presenting these awards to Wakia Harris on behalf of Paul Dawkins, because he's going to be here today. And she's being recognized for her volunteer work throughout the Antelope Valley. She does 2 things. She helps adults with addictions and other mental problems, and she helps mentor teenagers to get them to be more like her. And I'm going to be presenting this word to Kyle Bundy on behalf of Corey Lockwood, since he also couldn't be here. And he's getting this award for his involvement in robotics, and he takes AP classes at a high school and college classes, and he's an honor driving classes. So he's involved in everything.
Just like that.
Nice Kyle.
And I have to do it again, I'm sorry to say.
I'm recognizing Marcy Krieger. She spends many weeks every summer in different countries like Hungary, Romania, China, and Mexico, doing different service projects, building houses, and teaching English to children. She's active in her church and in her school with different clubs and sports and worship teams, and she also volunteers at AV Hospital and AV Healthcare Center.
Good evening, everyone. So tonight I will be awarding Amber Frisbee as my Teen Spotlight Award nominee. Amber Frisbee, come here. She is a recent graduate of Antelope Valley High School. She graduated with a 3.5 GPA. I chose Amber as a recipient for the award because she excels in video production. She has been in the video production program at AV High School for 2 years, and in those 2 years, she has started in the path to her future as being a director. Not only that, but she has also worked on multiple Lancaster City projects, working with video production, and Antelope Valley High School projects. She also teaches youth all about video production so that they can know and one day be a director themselves. She'll be going to ABC for 2 years and then transferring to CSUN.
Hi, my name is Ritzy Molly. I nominated Michael Johnson for the Teen Spotlight Award, but unfortunately he couldn't be here with us tonight. But I nominated him for special achievement because he's one of the highest. He has one of the highest GPAs in his class as a junior right now with a 3.8. He's also one of the best people in school to get along with. He gives you his advice on everything. Another thing that he had, he excels in sports. He qualified for the CIF championship for our school on track and football. And he's just really awesome.
Thank you all. Before you sit down, I'd like to take the Teen Spotlight winners up here to take pictures just of that group.
Thank you, Marilyn.
You're welcome. Just take a minute. Very good.
Thanks, Whitney. Little city smile, baby.
Mr. Bozigi.
Council. It's my honor tonight to present a plaque to Ann Aldridge, our Communications Manager, who announced her retirement about 3 weeks ago. And in that time period, I've been thinking a lot about Ann, and I said some things at the meeting, but I'd like to say to you, I'm going to miss her on a personal level. I'm going to miss the conversations we've had. I miss her frank advice, whether I wanted to hear it or not. She was always honest, and that's something that's rare. And I think we as an organization, I personally are going to miss what she does. I think in some ways we took it for granted. Example just came today. We were in a staff meeting, and Dave Ledbetter was talking about the general plan and how much the outreach this time was better than any other time we've done it. And I had always assumed, Dave had led me to believe it, but always assumed that it was the department that did it. And Dave thanked Ann for her hard work on that. We're going to sincerely miss you, and we sincerely, as a city, appreciate what you've done for us. Thank you very much. This is her husband, Gary, who's the president of the Youth.
Tough when the photographer is the one up here.
He's not very good.
Thank you very much. And if I could just say, I did some figuring, and today is my 277th City Council meeting. And in that time, I have to say, I've seen the best of Lancaster. I've seen the best, the most passionate of its citizens, the most professional of its staff, dedicated staff, the most dedicated and giving council members of their time. The elected officials have been wonderful. It's just been a great experience, and I just want to say thank you for the privilege of working with all of you.
And last but not least, we have the United States Army. Is that right? And Sergeant Mangrum. This is actually a week early, isn't it? Yeah. It's a proclamation on behalf of the City of Lancaster, whereas the United States Army was established by the First Continental Congress on the 14th day of June, 1775, whereas the United States Army exists to defend the freedom of our citizens and our nation's security interests, whereas many citizens of Lancaster have served their nation and given the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our freedoms as members of the United States Army, whereas it is proper to recognize the United States Army annually on its birthday and to thank those who have served and those who are presently serving, now therefore be it resolved on behalf of the City of Lancaster, I hereby proclaim June 9 through 15th, 2008, United States Army Week in the City of Lancaster, and exhort all citizens to join with me in this salute to express our gratitude to those who have served and those who are now serving to protect our nation and its freedoms. And then it's signed by the mayor. Thank you so much. You know, I want you all to know that Vice Mayor Smith told me that the Army was established somehow under the auspices of the Navy. Now, Sergeant, I don't think that's true, is it?
That's our retired naval commander.
Well, we're going to get to the bottom of this before it's over. Trust me. Okay. City Manager, do we have any items to be removed from the, what is this, the Redevelopment Agency?
No, sir.
Thank you.
I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar for the Redevelopment Agency.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Let's vote. And it's unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, if I could we move JPH1 and RNB1 to consolidate them with the City Council agenda, since they're the identical items?
Yes, we can do that. Okay, is that ended for the redevelopment agency? Any items the council on the consent calendar would like to pull for discussion, or do we have a motion and a second for adoption?
Mayor, we have a speaker's card for consent calendar item number 5, so that should be removed.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, consent calendar 9, that one needs to be singled out as well, so I'll need to abstain.
Okay. Okay, is there a motion on the remaining items on the consent calendar?
Yes, I'll move that we adopt the consent calendar as now constituted.
Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Well, let's go ahead and vote. And it's unanimous. Consent calendar item number 5, do you want to go to that now? Okay. And Mr. Shavera?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, staff, I want to thank you in advance for the expected passage of CC item number 5, which would maintain the city's 3 remaining mobile home parks that are senior parks, 55 years of age and older, at a ratio of 80%, 20% for younger persons. I want to thank you and the prior council and planning commission for the unanimous adoption of that ordinance to get this far. I would like to remind you also in this related matter that protecting this sort of affordable housing stock, in the prior council's unanimous action of 3 months ago, ordering a drafting of another ordinance of a protective nature for mobile home park living, which would prevent the condoization of our mobile home parks or their subdivision into single space ownership, thereby depriving the rest of the tenants in the mobile home park, no matter the number, of rent control, something which would horribly destabilize your present system of rent stabilization, Mr. Mayor. I hope that the proposed ordinance will appear soon before your newly revamped Planning Commission. And thank you again all for unanimously passing the previous ordinances, whether they occurred at the Planning Commission level or at the City Council level. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we adopt CC5.
I'll second that.
Let's vote. It's unanimous. Now we have CC9, and you need to abstain, is that correct?
That's correct. My son currently, I believe, is the president or chairman of LOTS. So with that, I would like to abstain.
Okay.
I'll move to adopt CC9.
Is there a second? Second. I'm sorry, who seconded?
I'll second that.
Well, there we go. Thank you. It's unanimous except for the abstention of Mr. Mann. Then we go to the joint public hearing. So we'll open the joint public hearing for JPH1, and we have a staff report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council members and members of the audience. We have a presentation before you tonight on the proposed fiscal year 2008-2009 budget. As we're getting the PowerPoint ready,
This budget has been a work of a lot of staff members at the city. It's presented to the council. We had a workshop a week ago. Some of the information will be duplicative to the council, which I apologize for. I think it's important that members of the public also hear this as well. We know this budget reflects the council priorities and the efficiencies that the council recommended, and we also know that it's responsive to the economic times we're in. A budget is more about priorities than numbers, and I think the presentation will reflect that. This budget is responsive to the direction of the council, and it is developed around 5 priorities, if you will. The first is to maintain service levels despite the economic downturn. That's through conservative financial practices that have been put in place by several councils and staff over the years. The other priority is to significantly increase the city's commitment to public safety, to make sure that the recent momentum we've obtained is maintained. The third is a commitment to continued leadership on a regional basis in addressing critical water resource issues. We need to look. The fourth is strategic financial management over the next several years of the city's assets to make sure we can maintain service levels. And the fifth is strategic investment in capital improvement projects that deal with water resource management, enhanced economic development opportunities, recreational opportunities, and to maintain existing public facilities. And I'll expand upon each of these a little bit. In terms of the financial practices and the ability to maintain services and expand public service in economic downturn, this budget is a decrease in the operating budget of $6.9 million, or 7.5% from last year's budget. That's despite a $1.4 million increase in public safety. That is no small feat. The general fund projection is reduced by $1 million over last year, again, despite a $1.4 million increase in public safety. That was done by a lot of hard work on staff's part, led by the department heads. And that doesn't happen overnight. You just don't come to an economic downturn and decide that you have to do something. It's managing your resources and managing the departments properly in terms of allocating resources, commitment to long-term projects, and looking at the way we always look for efficiency. So I want to thank all the department heads in particular for their efforts in that. This budget is in balance, meaning revenues exceed expenditures, and we did not have to dip into the financial stability reserve. It maintains a 10% operating reserve and also maintains the financial stability reserve equivalent to 3 months of operating expenditures. No new staff positions are proposed. No layoffs are recommended. And I want to mention that for a second. The reason for that is in the development areas, we did not staff up to support the peak of the peak in development. We have a base level staff that supports development, and the peak of the peak is supported through contract labor and other means that can be cut when times dictate that. And that's, again, in our development departments. I want to give credit to the development departments for that. We have 4 development-related positions that will remain unfilled, and we will come back to you at such time as development warrants filling those positions. I will personally review all open vacant positions and turnover to look at the need for the positions, and we will look at all out-of-state travel requests. And our financial forecast for the next 10 years includes in it an expansion of public safety each and every year to make sure that we maintain our commitment to public safety. In terms of public safety, and at the end of the presentation, I'm going to ask the Captain Anderson to spend a minute or two to talk about that. But to highlight some of it, this budget proposes 5 new city-funded deputy positions. That's in addition to the commitment that Sheriff Bach has already made to this community of 7 additional deputies. That will make sure that we maintain 12 deputies on the street during fiscal year 2008-2009. 2 of those deputies are going to be working in a truancy car. We're very excited about that. The truancy car is a win-win for both the school districts and for the city. It's going to be specifically targeted towards truants during the day, and particularly from the city's point of view, directed at reducing daytime burglaries and larcenies. The school district benefits because as we return the truants to school, the schools get additional money for average daily attendance. The school districts are on board, and they're going to then work and make sure that the
parents of the students and the students themselves know the repercussions for their actions. So this is a win-win program we're very excited about. We're going to expand our neighborhood watch and business watch particularly to deal with robberies, larcenies, etc. We can reduce our crime rate if we engage the business community to be a partner in making themselves harder targets, and we're working very hard on that. I'm going to leave the discussion on patrol operations to Captain Anderson, but we're going to work very hard, and we're already doing that our patrol operations are going to be problem solvers in the neighborhoods and the businesses. We're proposing to successfully integrate the Lancaster Criminal Justice Commission into our crime-fighting initiatives. That's both on a technical level and on a level to engage the citizens in the fight against crime, to up and leverage that citizen involvement. One thing that I'm very excited about is we are going to be at the forefront of all of the contract cities in Los Angeles County in terms of crime analysis and real-time analysis to help us deploy our troops and to help us deal with crimes while they're happening or shortly thereafter, as opposed to waiting too long to deal with it. That's something we're very excited about. That's in conjunction with the Sheriff's Department, and I thank Sheriff Baca and his staff for allowing us to go there and allowing us to access to some of the data. And finally, we're going to increase, whether you call it the quality of life car or the party car, it's been a smashing success. And we're going to increase that from 2 nights to 4 nights a week. I think there's very good coverage of that, and it is not just the Sheriff's Department's responsibility to control out-of-control parties. As the mayor is quoted as saying, it is the parents' responsibility and it's the community's responsibility to do that. That will also help us avoid much more serious crimes. In terms of water, and the rest of these I will deal with a bit more rapidly. In terms of water, we have $3.2 million in capital projects in our budget to increase recycled water delivery and to increase the delivery of potable water system sources. We are already operating, and in the first year of operations of our city-operated sewer maintenance operations. Over the next several months, you'll be hearing a lot about the Water Ad Hoc Committee that the council established, and we need to aggressively deal with, and I know there'll be discussion on that, conservation measures, landscape measures, water resource measures, and local governance. And that's the last issue, is that we've included funds to allow us to deal greater with local governance issues. In terms of some of the other additional key initiatives that we have, in terms of our neighborhood revitalization efforts, proactive code enforcement will continue and actually be enhanced, as will our community building efforts, our foreclosure mitigation program, which is a success, our housing rehabilitation programs, and the Safer and Stronger Neighborhoods program, which you'll be hearing more about over the next 3 to 4 months. In terms of planning efforts, this is a big year, this fiscal year. The Downtown Specific Plan will be adopted or proposed for adoption, the 5-year redevelopment implementation plan, which is required by law, and the general plan update will all be up for consideration this fiscal year. There's a lot of planning efforts that will serve this community well. Some of the other key initiatives, again, what's particularly heartening to me and staff is that a lot of the quality of life programs we're able to maintain. We're able to maintain a robust and one of the best parks, recreation, arts programs in the entire state of California in this budget. At Council's direction, we've included funds for business license audit of undocumented workers to make sure that they're in compliance for city business licenses. And the budget also includes funding to maintain our facilities and keep up with repairs so that we aren't faced with a catastrophic bill in the future because we haven't taken care of business today. With that, I'd like to ask our Finance Director, Barbara Boswell, to go through a brief overview of some of the numbers, and then we'll wrap it up. Thank you.
Thank you. First, we'll take just a minute to take a look at our revenue outlook. Overall, the city and agency revenues are projected at $193 million. That's down $2 million or 1% from 07-08. That's predominantly seen in our development area. As you can see by this chart, our redevelopment tax increment is the largest segment of revenues, but I don't want that to be misleading. Most of that money gets passed back to other government agencies such as the county through what's called pass-through agreements. The remaining revenues are going to stay relatively stable, a slight increase in sales and property tax, but for the most part it's relatively the same as 07-08. Our proposed expenditures, the total proposed budget for 08-09 is $266 million. That's 16% decrease from 07-08. Most of that decrease is seen in our operating budget, where we've been able to reduce in our professional services and development-related expenditures. Looking at the department budgets, the darker blue line is the 08-09 proposed as compared to 07-08. As Mark, our city manager, mentioned, all of the departments worked really hard at reducing their budgets, with the exception of public safety, which we're proposing an increase. They're all down a bit. Administration shows an increase, and that is due to some reallocation of expenditures. What we've done is pulled some expenditures out of the departments and combined them into administration to increase efficiencies in some of our expenditures in that area. The general fund, this is a snapshot. We're anticipating just over $59 million in revenues. Our operating expenditures are $53.8 million. Capital projects, $1.5 million, and then net transfers between funds, $3.5. And that leaves positive fund balance or increase from our fund balance of about $600,000 if all of our estimates are correct. And that money would go into fund balance for future expenditures if needed. So how did we accomplish reducing our budget? As was mentioned, we reduced our professional contractual services approximately $2 million. We reduced travel expenses by reducing not only the number of seminars we attend, but the number of attendees at those that we are attending. We're proposing to reduce one Celebrate Downtown Lancaster event. We're going to distribute electronically one Outlook Light edition, and if that goes well, that may be expanded to others. We've been able to reduce the cost of our Looking Good Lancaster program. And as city manager mentioned, we're going to keep 4 positions that are development-related unfilled through the year unless it becomes necessary to fill them. Our capital improvement program, which is a fairly significant portion of our budget, is proposed at $39 million. And those can be categorized in the areas of water, economic development, parks, recreation, and arts, and maintenance and repairs. Our water projects, we're proposing just about $3.2 million worth of projects, including expansion of the recycled water system, recycled water conversions, which allows those users to connect to our recycled water system, a study to look at a possibility of a recycled water recharge, North City Water Transmission Main, which is actually a project that is being moved forward by the Army Corps of Engineers, in which the city is participating with a match. And then recycled water improvements at City Park to connect that to our recycled water system. In economic development-related projects, we have just over $19 million, including the infrastructure improvements for the expansion of the auto dealers at 10th Street West, undergrounding of the channel at Amargosa Creek at L and 10th Street West to allow development of that property, interchange improvements at Avenue I and State Route 14, Front Row Center infrastructure improvements, which includes the landscaping and sidewalks and other improvements to allow that development to move forward. 30th Street West and Avenue G widening in connection with the Oates construction development and utility extensions. And then improvements at Avenue G and 30th Street West for Lancaster Business Park. Some of the parks projects that we'll be undertaking are Phase 1 of Carter Park, which is approximately 7 acres and includes grass and irrigation. 11.2 acre neighborhood park in downtown Gilly Park, and that's key to our downtown revitalization efforts. In Prime Desert Woodlands, we'll see some additional improvements, including extension of a trail system and improvements of the pavilion, including electricity, landscaping, and concrete pathways. We have our annual streets and pavement management program, which will be undertaken in the coming year, and widening of 30th Street West from Avenue M to L. With that, I'd like to invite our city manager back to the podium for some final comments, and I'll be available for questions should you have them.
One thing while we're going to the future challenges, mentioned the Celebrate Downtown going from 3 to 2. Lots will be holding an event that will replace the third event that the city was holding too. So from the public, there will be 3 events. And we hope the public attends. Those are great events, and we really appreciate Lots stepping up for that. Meeting future challenges. We have some big issues, obviously, that we need to work at. We can't just sit here and believe everything's going to be rosy. The ongoing economic condition, we have to be vigilant on that, and you'll see a second we have a plan for that. We also, water availability. Water availability, no matter what the national economy does or the state economy does, if we don't have water, we won't be able to ride that economic wave. That's just from the economic point of view, not even the other aspects of water availability. Property tax lag. You'll see that we projected a slight increase. That's because Los Angeles County is a couple years behind in terms of revenue. When the economy starts to strengthen, we're going to see property taxes reduce because folks now are going for lower property tax. So we have that put in our projections. Animal control is an example of issues that come up all the time. The Los Angeles Animal Control informed us that they wanted to raise our rates 245%, by about $600,000 or $700,000. Those issues come up a lot, and we have to deal with them. Obviously, we're not going to accept that increase. We're going to work with Los Angeles County, and we're also going to work with Palmdale looking at local control of that function so we can improve service and improve cost efficiency. Strategic focus on key issues. We've identified 19 what we're terming workout plans. Those are areas that we can look at for cost efficiencies or revenue enhancements. And what we're doing is we're having those folks in our organization that are closest and best equipped, no matter what level of the organization they're at, to deal with the situation and figure out how we can get more efficient. Fuel efficiency is an example. We've done a good job of buying alternative fuel vehicles, hybrids, etc. There's operational aspects that we might get better at. Instead of having folks go from outlying locations to centralized locations, having remote fueling stations. So we have, that's an example of some of the 19 that we're looking at as well too. What we plan is this is the public hearing component, and then the council will have the budget presented to them on June 24th for adoption. With that, I'd like to ask Captain Anderson, if I may, to come up and talk a minute or two about patrol operations, and then we'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Good evening, Mayor and Council and staff and members of our community. Thanks for giving me a couple minutes to come up and talk a little bit about the state of our sheriff's station. As most of us know, our stated goal, both with the city and the sheriff's department, is to continue to drive that Part 1 crime rate down as far as we can. In doing a little assessment when I first arrived at the sheriff's station, I noticed that our special teams, and we're talking about LANCAP and TOP and OSS and GET, and I don't even know what these things mean. I don't expect everybody else to know it. They're doing wonderfully. They're excellent cops, and they're out there being very, very productive. But what I also noticed was that my focus needs to be on our patrol operations. We've got a very young patrol staff over there. We've trained a lot of people recently, and there's no question in my mind that we can get more out of them. These young men and women are loyal, they're enthusiastic, and they're ready to get out there and do the job. But I think it's also fair to say they're a little bit green. They're a little green. In my opinion, to address that issue, the emphasis needs to be in two different areas. First of all, we've got to train them. We're responsible for training them over at the station, and we've got to help them develop their craft. We've got to ask them and expect that they're going to be the best that they can be. To a certain extent, some of them, not all of them, tend to be call cops. In other words, Most of the activities they get involved in have to do with answering calls for service. We can ask more of them than that. They can develop their communication skills. They can learn a little bit more about legalities and probably do a little bit better in terms of making observational arrests. Getting involved in police work that really doesn't involve at all the MDT, or the Mobile Digital Terminal, which used to be the radio. In talking with our young folks over there, it's working, because some of the best arrests I've seen over there in the last several weeks have been made by our patrol deputies. They just needed encouragement. We're working on training them, briefing them, communicating with them, and they're already coming along much better. The second thing I think we need to do is we need to continue to encourage them to embrace the problem-solving method of police work. They need to continue to learn better how to use all the available resources to them. They need to know about our core program. They need to know about our detectives and what they can offer them back there in terms of information. They need to talk to our gang people, both OSS and GET. That will make them better cops. And they need to use their unallocated time to seek long-term solutions to problems. I think the day is over, really, and we're going to encourage this. Excuse me. We're going to make sure that they seek long-term solutions to problems, as opposed to driving around the area and observing violations and maybe getting lucky with good arrests. We would like for them to communicate with all the resources that they have and seek long-term problems, or long-term solutions to the problems that they run across. And we're making headway in that already, and we're going to continue to do that. The last thing I'd like to offer you is our young deputies over at the station really do feel the support that they're getting from the council, and they're certainly getting from our citizens out there. They're ready to get out and get to work. It's my job to make sure they're prepared to do that, and that's what I intend to do. Thank you. I answer any questions.
Thank you. When are we going to hit 300
as soon as possible, sir.
Thank you, Captain.
And we'd be happy to answer any questions, and there may be some speaker cards as well, too.
Mr. Mayor, there's no speaker cards on this item.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any communications?
No communications.
Thank you. No speaker cards. Let's close the public hearing. Open discussion of the council, and if there's a motion.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could. Over the past year, Mr. Bozigian and staff has really listened to the council on many things that we push forward on the budget and law enforcement. And I'd like to commend them on just an amazing budget. Here we're in an economic downturn. They've cut the budget by 16.5%, while increasing law enforcement by 6% and putting 5 more deputies on the street. Not dipping into any stability funds, not laying off one employee, and not cutting services to the public at all. And that's because every single person on the staff dug down deep and looked and made what we've been requesting of intelligent, conservative cuts. And I just have to commend Mr. Bozigian for just a great job, and Barbara Boswell, who has been the anchor of the city's financial stability for a number of years. And without you guys, we just couldn't have done it. And thanks to all the staff for the great work that you did on this amazing budget.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We had, during our budget workshop, one of the items I brought up was enforcement of the Section 8 program, and for the sake of the public, what we're currently doing is funding a Section 8 investigator in cahoots with the county, even though it's a federal program run by the County Housing Authority, which in our mind should be funding all of the enforcement effort. In order to get it done, the city needed to step up and put some funds out there. We had talked about making an offer to the county of funding another Section 8 investigator, showing we're serious that we have the money set aside, and see if they're serious about upholding
their half of the bargain in funding another half of an investigator. Have you approached the county yet or had any discussions along those lines?
We've had some discussions on a variety of aspects of Section 8, including the enforcement aspects. We don't have council direction, obviously, to offer an additional city money, but we've been pretty aggressive, very aggressive, actually, with the county on those.
I was going to save it for new business, but what I'm going to be directing is that I'm going to be asking Councilwoman Marcus to form a committee to appoint a Section 8 commission, and it's going to have 3 elements to it. One is to regionally look at a joint powers agreement to take over the Section 8 for the Antelope Valley. I want a component looking into the enforcement of the Section 8 in a much more aggressive manner. And let me get my notes here. We want to look into drafting an ordinance that we limit the number of business licenses for Section 8 housing to our fair share of the number of Section 8 units in the Housing Authority, and that we also look into developing a means of making it very easy for neighbors to file nuisance lawsuits with the assistance of the city against group homes and Section 8 housing that become a nuisance, and where the owners of the property fail to protect the neighbors. So it's going to be quite involved. It's going to involve meeting with our neighbors to the south, and it's going to involve meeting with the county. And hopefully we will, once and for all, take this Section 8 housing issue and deal with it on a local level in an aggressive manner, as opposed to a dumping of Section 8 into our community. I think that 6 months from now we're going to see a much different approach to Section 8 in the Antelope Valley than we've ever had before. Now, I was going to save that, but you jumped the gun, so I might as well bring it up. And that will be on the agenda for the next meeting, and I want it on the agenda every meeting until we are in full force in regards to the Section 8 Commission. It will also be your responsibility to make recommendations for the appointment of those commissioners, and I will give it extreme weight, whoever your committee decides to appoint to that. Hopefully they will be people that are aggressive and no-nonsense type of folks. Okay?
Sounds wonderful.
Okay.
I love it.
So you're in, right?
I'm in.
Thank you very much.
Can I add one comment to that? And that is that consider expanding that beyond just Section 8. There's HUD and a few other programs, and even possibly you discussed nuisance lawsuits for problem Section 8 properties. If we could expand that to just problem rental properties, and I wanted to run into the problem of saying, well, you're discriminating against Section 8. No, I want to just discriminate against problems, whether it be Section 8 or HUD or just people who don't know how to maintain the rental property.
It will be your commission.
Yeah, I'd like to make a statement here. I think that, especially with the downturn in the housing market, I think there's a lot of unknowns that we see out there that could possibly impact our neighborhoods. So, I support the enthusiasm in which the mayor is going after Section 8 when it's specifically from the abuse. I would hope that the commission that is appointed, that we make sure that there's some nonprofits that are included in that, because I don't want, our issue with Section 8 is the abusers, not the nonprofits that either are involved with certificate holders, and that's my only concern that I have. But clearly we need to go after that abuse.
Thank you.
We will add that to the next agenda as an item for council consideration, and then in terms of the ordinance, I'd defer to our city attorney, who I'm sure has some research to do on that subject.
Thank you. I don't want there to be any mistake about this. We want to limit the number of Section 8 units residential units that are placed in this community. We have far more than our fair share. It is overburdening the community. It is overburdening law enforcement, and we should not run from this. We have far more than our fair share, and all we want to do is limit it to what our fair share is. And I have no intention of being soft about this. This has become a problem that is crushing our community, and we have to treat it as such. Thank you.
To buttress the mayor's position, I only know the numbers for the Antelope Valley as a whole, but the Antelope Valley has about 3% of our county's population, and we have somewhere in the order of 15, 16, 17% of the Section 8 housing. So it's not that we're a little over, we're a magnitude over.
It's actually more than that because it's growing. They've been dumping it at a much more rapid rate the last few months. They have totally ignored our plight up here. And, you know, it's time to go to war. Thanks.
Thank you.
I just had one comment. Every time I sat down in one of the briefings for the budget or with the Captain Anderson, I couldn't say how pleased I was from having sat out there as a citizen and asked for more deputies and more ways to fight crime. I just say that every one of them, I'm extremely impressed with it, and the staff went above and beyond in what they've done, and I'm very impressed. I'm very pleased as a citizen and as being part of the council, and I can't brag enough on all of you. Thank you so much.
On behalf of staff, we thank you. Thank all of you.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a motion?
I think it's a public
We just receive it today?
and you'll consider it the 24th, and I don't know if you have speaker cards or not.
No, we have no speakers cards.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll open the public hearing for item PH1, and we'll hear from Elizabeth Brubaker. I was looking for you. You were hiding over there. I couldn't see you.
Kind of short down there. Good evening, Mayor Paris and City Council members.
Good evening.
Before you tonight is a resolution approving the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by California State Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $13 million to assist in the financing for the completion of construction of the Poppy Fields Estates and Mental Health Association facility at 530 West Jackman Street in the North Downtown Transit Village project area. In February of 2006, the City Council adopted a resolution approving the issuance of approximately $11 million of multifamily housing revenue bonds. The proceeds were loaned to Leaps and Bounds, LP, to construct Poppy Fields Estates, a 100-unit multifamily housing complex, and the new Mental Health Association headquarters, a 20,000 square foot facility for outpatient care. The California Statewide Communities Development Authority is proposing to issue an additional $2 million of multifamily housing revenue bonds, the proceeds to be loaned to the developer to complete the construction of Poppy Fields Estates and the Mental Health Association, which is 90% complete and expected to be 100% complete by the end of August 2008. The bonds will be tax-exempt, private activity bonds for the purposes of the Internal Revenue Code, and as such, the approval of the elected body of the governmental entity having jurisdiction over the area where the project to be financed is located. There is no financial impact to the city. The city will not be under any obligation to repay the bond indebtedness. The debt will not be secured by any form of taxation or by any obligation of the city, and the debt will not represent or constitute a general obligation of the city. Please adopt Resolution Number 0846 approving the issuance of multifamily housing revenue bonds by California Statewide Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $13 million to assist the developer in the financing of the completion of the construction of Poppy Fields Estates in the city of Lancaster. Do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay,
I just want to hear the part again where it doesn't cost the city anything.
right on.
Thank you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any communications?
No communications?
Any speaker cards?
No speakers cards, Mr. Mayor.
We'll close the public hearing. Council discussion or motion?
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 08-46.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Let's vote. It's passed unanimously. I thought we were supposed to have a 3-2 split here. What's going on?
It's early.
All right, I'll stop. Okay, let's go to item PH2, and we'll begin here from the Housing Director, Elizabeth Brubaker.
Mayor Paris and City Council members, before you tonight is a resolution approving the issuance of a tax-exempt revenue bonds by California Statewide Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $11 million to assist the financing of the Penny Lane Center's Antelope Valley Family Center and Campus for the construction of the facility at 43423 Division Street and 2 in the city of Los Angeles. The bonds will be tax-exempt private activity bonds for the purposes of the Internal Revenue Code, and as such, require the approval of the elected body of the governmental entity having jurisdiction over the area where the project to be financed is located. There is no financial impact to the city. The city will not be under any obligation to repay the bond indebtedness. The debt will not be secured by any form of taxation or by any obligation of the city, and the debt will not represent or constitute a general obligation of the city. On July 16, 2006, Penny Lane Centers received planning approval and celebrated with a groundbreaking on June 7, 2007. On April 2, 2008, Penny Lane received an approved grading plan and shortly thereafter started construction, receiving a complete set of approved plans on or about May 29, 2008. Penny Lane was organized in 1965 with a mission to foster hopes and dreams by empowering children, youth, and families to reach their highest potential. Penny Lane services include residential treatment, foster care, adoption services, on-site special education school, outpatient mental health services, and transitional housing for emancipated foster youth. Penny Lane's headquarters are in Los Angeles with an adoptive outpatient and foster family services in the Antelope Valley and the Center of Commerce. The Antelope Valley Family Center and Campus will be unique in that it will bring the range of Penny Lane Center services under one roof and create an accessible continuum of care for case-managed assistance to high-risk children and families. Family and child mental health care, counseling, therapy, group and education venues, and early childhood learning pavilion, which provides safe, age-appropriate respite care for the children of parents receiving center-based services. Please adopt resolution number 0847, approving the issuance of tax-exempt revenue bonds by California Statewide Communities Development Authority in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $11 million to assist the Penny Lane Centers to finance the construction of the Antelope Valley Family and Campus in Lancaster. Any questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. City Clerk, any communications?
No communications?
Any speaker cards? Let's close the public hearing. Council discussion or motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 08-47.
I'll second that.
So, it's unanimous. Going on to new business, item 1, we'll hear a report from Housing Director Elizabeth Brubaker. You've got a busy day today.
Yeah.
Would you save it all up? Is that what?
But this is different. Mayor, Commissioners and City Council members, before you tonight is an amendment to the lease agreement with option to purchase real property between the City of Lancaster and North Downtown Renewal LP for the commercial property located at 665 West Lancaster Boulevard, known as the old Wells Fargo Building. During 2005, the City of Lancaster initiated a comprehensive planning process for downtown Lancaster in an effort to revitalize downtown and create a corridor that is a place of historic, cultural, social, economic, and civic vitality for the Lancaster community, as well as the Antelope Valley. Over the past 20 years, the city and the agency have made significant public investments throughout the downtown area in introducing a modern street theme involving new pedestrian lighting, street trees, aerospace walk of honor monument, the construction of the Performing Arts Center, City Hall facilities, and the relocation of the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Station and County Library. Over the past 5 decades, research has shown that long-term success of downtowns comes only when public and private partnerships are created that marry the public's planning, coordination, infrastructure, and public financing tools with the private sector's entrepreneurial savvy, development expertise, retailing know-how, and private capital. In 2007, the City of Lancaster was presented with such an opportunity to kick off the effort to further make over downtown Lancaster through a cooperative venture with private development interests in the downtown to redevelop and reuse a large downtown vacant commercial building. The City Council approved the lease agreement with option to purchase between the City of Lancaster and North Downtown Renewal LP for the old Wells Fargo building. The city received full control of the property as the lessor. North Downtown Renewal LP, as the landlord, renovated the building for city use, and the sale to the Antelope Valley High School District, which houses the Lancaster Museum and Art Gallery, was negotiated and will be presented to the agency board in the near future. In order to keep the momentum of the revitalization of the downtown moving forward, relocating the museum and art gallery must happen now while the renovation of the old S&S Furnishings building is underway for Ewing's Restaurant. The success of reestablishing Lancaster's downtown requires continuous forward progress in order to maintain the public and private synergy that is vital to the redevelopment efforts and the success of those vested in the downtown. Miracles happen in the movies, but they rarely happen in real life. It takes an aggressive commitment by the public sector in partnership with the private sector to address negative influences before sustainable retail revitalization will occur. And the Museum and Art Gallery is the catalyst by which this will happen. The Museum and Art Gallery, being located in the downtown, is the most desirable and convenient location, making it easily accessible for pedestrians and public. Agency staff believes that entering into an amended lease agreement with option to purchase is necessary, as is having the landlord make improvements to the subject property for the relocation of the Lancaster Museum and Art Gallery, which will support making the downtown alive and vibrant, making a positive transformation for the community of Lancaster. Any questions?
Do you have any pictures of what it's going to look like?
I have lots of pictures, and when we come back to council for the approval of the Museum and Art Gallery, we'll present some of the drawings for that area.
Okay. Has there been an artist rendering of what the entire Lancaster Boulevard area is going to look like when we're finally finished?
No. What we're working on right now is a artist rendering that shows, if you were looking at the whole block of Wells Fargo from the S&S Furnishing side, then a look at looking at S&S Furnishings, and then we're going to do an elevation, a plan view, and kind of a moving model so that people can get a whole feel of what all of the buildings are going to look like. You've got the rehabilitation of the Wells Fargo building, Right now, you have the 21 lofts that are under construction. You have a 40-unit that's going to be going in there with a park. That's on the one side, with pedestrian accessibility and the whole change of connecting into the James C. Gilley Park. Then across the street, you have a promenade that's going to be where in front of and around the S&S furnishings. So the whole thing's going to be connected between the two blocks. And so the next time we come to council, I think we'll have a really beautiful rendering of what that's going to look like.
Additionally, Mr. Mayor, the downtown specific plan, as you know, has been distributed to all and is out to everyone, and that does have some pictorial views of the downtown project as well, too. That's available. I believe it's available online. I'm not sure of that. It's available online as well for the public on the city's website to see.
Terrific. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any speaker cards?
No speakers cards, Mr. Mayor.
Any discussion or motion?
I'll move that we approve the amendment to the lease agreement with North Downtown Renewal LP.
Second that. Let's vote. 5-0 again. You know, you keep this up, and Bob Wilson over there is going to be upset that... Okay. I'm sorry, what? I said under my breath, don't pick fights with people who buy ink by the barrel. I'm not picking a fight. I'm just pointing out that, you know, where's this 3-2 split I've been reading about? We'll now hear a report from the city attorney regarding the Architectural and Design Planning Commission.
Let's hope the 3-2 split doesn't come now. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, you have before you Ordinance 902, which adopts Chapter 2.26, adds that to the Lancaster Municipal Code for the purpose of establishing the Architectural and Design Planning Commission. This commission will be comprised of 7 members appointed by the mayor with the concurrence of the city council, as the regular planning commission is. And its authority will be to develop architectural and design guidelines for residential, commercial, and industrial properties, and then to hear appeals of implementing decisions of the staff concerning those guidelines. It will not be in a position to approve every project if staff has implemented the guidelines correctly and the property owners are not in a position of appealing, then there won't be any further approval by this commission. So it will not slow down the approval process. That was not the intent. The other provisions of the chapter follow basically the same provisions in the Chapter 2.24, which deals with the Planning Commission. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to attempt to answer them.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
There's no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Council discussion or a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that we introduce ordinance number 902.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any discussion? And it's 5-0 to approve. And now we have R&B 1 and new business 3, also the city attorney.
Both of these items deal with the meeting times for the redevelopment agency as well as the city council. You're able to change the meeting times by simply adopting the resolutions, and each of the resolutions provides for the meetings to commence at 5 p.m. on the second and fourth Tuesdays of each month.
Thank you. Any speaker cards?
Yes, there's 2 speakers, Mr. Mayor.
We have Paul Jennings and Amelia Jennings, and I'll let you decide who goes first. Mr. Jennings.
Mr. Mayor, council, staff,
Thank you for the opportunity to allow me to express my opinion on this subject. I agree that the time for the meetings needs to be changed. However, I think it should be changed in the opposite direction. I think we should, instead of going to 5 o'clock, I think we should start the meetings at 7 o'clock. My reasoning for this is that for working people, I think the city ought to be obligated to try to include more of the public, and that includes the working public, to come to these meetings. That's an essential part of local government. If we exclude them by going to the 5 o'clock, we will exclude a lot of them. I think we'll be doing the city a disservice. I know that this would cause a problem with the staff and the city employees that would be required to stay later than normal, but we could adopt a plan or a program where we could offer comp time for the time that they spend the later hours. So I urge you to oppose this proposition to change the meeting time to 5 o'clock and maybe change it to 7 o'clock. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mrs. Jennings? Hi.
Mr. Mayor, council members, my name is Amelia Jennings. I'm a resident of Lancaster, and I have the same feelings that Mr. Jennings has, only I've had a lot of neighbors and friends that have expressed this same thing to me because they are working people, and a lot of them have extremely hard time getting here at 6. So if you could just reconsider this and perhaps make it at 7, I think that would be just great. We'd sure appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Jennings. Mrs. Jennings, what do you think about if we try it for a few months? If we try the 5 o'clock with the understanding that if to come later, we will make arrangements. If there's a specific item that somebody wants to speak and can't. What I'm saying is, what if we just tried it?
Well, I know.
And then review it again in 3 months and see where we're at.
For my husband and I, we just cannot make it at 5 because he works till 6.
I see.
So we have a hard time getting here by after you've already started. And there's other people that have expressed the same thing to me. A lot of people work down the hill, and so they can't make it at all. If you did change it to 7, there's a possibility that they could.
Okay.
So thank you for considering it.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion? Or was that it?
That's it on the speaker's cards, Mr.
So we close the public hearing?
I'll move that we adopt resolution number 08-48 and resolution number 03-08.
What do you think of amending it and to just be re-examined in 90 days?
Well, I don't think we need to change the ordinance to do that. We could just bring it back for any time we want for re-examination. It doesn't have to amend the ordinance.
That's correct. It's just a resolution, so anytime you decide to change to a different time, you place another resolution on the agenda and consider that at that time.
Can we put it on the agenda today so that we revisit this in 90 days to see how it worked?
We could certainly revisit we could put it on an agenda 90 days from now.
Okay.
As a status, if you will.
And if there's people not being able to participate, then let's re-examine it. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, I fully support that. I appreciate you making that recommendation, and I would think that maybe we'd want to make a public announcement, and let's just see.
Okay.
Obviously, if it works for everybody, then we can proceed forward at 5 o'clock. If it doesn't, then we can obviously determine maybe in 3 months if there's a need to do a change back or to a later date.
Oftentimes, we'll change something, and then, 10 years later, somebody brings it up. This way, we know we'll re-examine it in 90 days. If people are concerned, then we'll fix it. But if it's not broke, then we won't have to fix it.
I just had someone tell me yesterday that they were excited about it being moved to 5 o'clock. They get off earlier in the day. They're, with the school. And her husband's works out at Edwards, and so they go in very early. They're off early, and so they were excited about it. But I think the 3 months, give it a try and come back and look at it and see.
Okay. I would also like to exercise some flexibility with the city staff on this. If we have an item that we know there's a lot of public interest in, that we take a break and schedule it so that will be later in the evening. And then let's see how this works. All right.
I would remain in opposition to any time prior to 5:30. I think even setting aside the issue of our commuters, even our local workers, a large number of them work until 5 o'clock in the evening, and I think to ask them to be here at 5 o'clock, and if there's an issue they want to speak on when they don't get off work till 5 o'clock, I think is burdensome.
Well, we started at 6 o'clock this evening, and we didn't get to anything that was in any way controversial until an hour into it. That's why I'm thinking that it's not going to be a problem. But if it is, we'll fix it.
Yeah, well, those would be here for the non-controversial items as well.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Shall we vote? And it's 4-1 with Mr. Cilio opposed.
You still don't have your 3-2.
We're getting there, Mr. Wilson. We're getting there. Okay. Moving on. City Manager, do you have any announcements?
Just two quick ones on somewhat of a lighter side. After Ann's announcement, the city attorney has informed me that this is his 470th city council meeting.
You don't look that old,
And I was going to announce the Lakers halftime score, but then I realized people may be TiVoing it, so if anyone wants to know, Kelvin can inform them after the meeting.
Okay. City Clerk? Do you have the scores?
No, sir. This is the time for public business from the floor for non-agendized items. Any person may address the council and the redevelopment agency on items that are not on the agenda. You will be given the opportunity to address them. You will find speaker cards on the back table of the council chambers. And if you wish, and additionally, we respectfully request that you fill the cards out completely and print as clearly as possible. Following this procedure will allow for a smooth and timely process. When your name is called and you come to the podium, you'll see 3 lights. The green light will come on when your time begins, the yellow light comes on when you have 30 seconds left, and the red light comes on when your time is done. We ask that you be considerate of the allotted time to allow other speakers to have their 3 minutes as well. State law prohibits the City Council and the agency from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, and your matter will be referred to the City Manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it Ms. Goss?
Okay, I do oppose the time change, and I think it would be very sneaky and underhanded if you have my project come up during the 5 o'clock time, because I can't get here any earlier than 6:30.
I'm sorry, are you referring to the Walmart situation? I promise you I will make it so you can be here.
Okay, well, another problem is you change the agenda to the last minute, and you can't find out when it's going to be on.
Okay, I will. If you send me an email, I will send you one back.
I know, it'll go in the circular file. Yes, okay.
That's not true. That's really not true. I know how important that particular project is to you, and I will do whatever is necessary to make certain that you're here and speaking on it, okay?
All right.
And state law requires us to post agendas 72 hours in advance.
Okay.
All right.
And if you send me an email, we will keep you advised by email.
All right.
Okay?
Converting the vacant lot on the northwest corner of the Avenue L and 60th Street West and the ranch property across the street on the southeast corner into 2 discount supercenters will have a significant impact to the neighborhood traffic. Currently, the ranch does not generate a lot of traffic, and the vacant lot generates none. Travel on Avenue L, Avenue K, and 60th Street West will only grow as student populations at Fortsville High School increase and residents move into the many new housing tracts. Adding the congestion of shoppers to the Avenue L and 60th Street intersection will only increase commute times for the local residents and students. Delivery trucks to the stores and fast food establishments traveling from the freeway down Avenue L or Avenue K will overburden these single-lane roads. Idling traffic is a waste of time and more importantly, a waste of gas for commuters. The environmental impact report for the 2 proposed supercenters is deeply flawed, as the traffic data gathered is unrepresentative of the existing conditions. Instead of counting traffic in September as the residents requested, the traffic data was collected last year in the first week of June. This is the last week of school. Many students do not attend. Seniors do not go except for rehearsals. There are no sporting events generating traffic, and many students leave early for vacation. Additionally, school commuters use residential side streets to bypass the traffic. This is not fair, because you discussed in the beginning.
That's true.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Additionally, school commuters use residential side streets to bypass the traffic at the Avenue L and 60th Street intersection. During the first week of September of this year, I counted the number of cars driving down 61st Street between Avenue L and Avenue 8. And for a half an hour between 7 o'clock and 7:30, there were 256 cars trying to avoid the intersection of traffic. Adding supercenters will send even more traffic down the residential streets as commuters try to escape the congested roads. The traffic data collected is deficient because it did not capture a true picture of the school traffic around the area. And to claim that the proposed projects would have an economic benefit does not hold water, since the type of jobs created are from the lowest paying sector of retail sales and food services. The 2007 short-range economic forecast for the city of Lancaster stated that 36% of the city's workers are already in this lowest paid job sector of retail and food services. Few, if any, full-time employees from this job sector have the income to purchase a home in the neighborhood and would have to commute elsewhere, thus increasing the traffic to the area. If the majority of jobs created are part-time positions, then there will be even more employees traveling the roads to get to work. Developing the ranch property with its current zoning of mixed residential, commercial, and office will provide more economic benefits than yet another discount supercenter. Office workers are usually paid more, have health benefits, and are employed full-time. Retaining the mixed zoning of the property gives workers an alternative to fast food and retail sales jobs.
Mr. Bozigian, one of the things that she brings up that does concern me is the traffic study. Could you look into that and see if that study was flawed?
Yes, we will.
Thank you. Okay, good. Mr. Pelka.
To the city council, to the...
I've been reading about you, Mr. Pelka.
I'm sorry?
I've been reading about you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that. 2 weeks ago, I attended the council meeting here and was in opposition of the council presenting In God We Trust in the back wall. And another member of the community here also was in opposition to that. Her house was graffitied. And because of that, you remarked in the paper that you were gathering information. You wanted to gather information from her address because you wanted to, contact her with your concerns for what she was asking about. I've been up to this council 5 times, and because of that, I was not contacted once about any of my concerns, about how I felt with anything. other than one time being told to be quiet, sit down, or I will be removed. So I have a proposition for the council. Since you are so adamant in putting In God We Trust here on the back wall, I will save the council money, and you can take the money that you've gathered for this project, and you could give it to, say, the Lancaster Community Shelter, who badly needs the food and clothing for the homeless people in Lancaster here. So I have prepared for you something to hang on your back wall. This is the photographs of what was on her windows at her house. So you can see it. You can see it. Everybody back here can see it. Since you were so adamant about having In God We Trust on your back wall, I'll present this to you, and you can put it up there for everybody to see. Now, seeing as how this council does not, how shall I say, want to be for all the people in this community, and having a neutral back wall, or something that will include everybody, like e pluribus unum. You want to do something like this, and divide the community. If this offends anybody in this room, anybody, it shouldn't be up there. It should not be up there.
I'm curious as to what let me get this right.
Sure.
I'm just curious as to why the basis of that belief, that because it offends anyone, then we should yield, when I believe it's something the vast majority would approve of. And I mean this since...
It's not the vast majority.
Wait a minute, let me finish, okay? And I mean this sincerely. I mean, I think there's a legitimate debate here. If the belief of this council, and I would like to point out it is the belief of all 5 of us, there is no division about this, that this is something that the vast majority of the community wants. What is the basis for not putting it up because of I think a much smaller minority who just doesn't want it? I mean, that same minority is offended that I'm sitting here. Should I leave? Well, wait a minute, I shouldn't ask you that, should I?
3-2. Why should anybody who has to come into this council have to feel they're not welcome here by seeing anything on the back wall? It would at all exclude somebody.
I just don't see why anyone would feel that way.
Why anybody would feel that way?
Because we have a...
2% of the people in Lancaster who, on Monday's survey, felt that it shouldn't be up there.
That wasn't a very scientific poll.
It doesn't matter. It was still a poll. I didn't see you take one. All I saw was Sherry Marquez, Ron Smith, and yourself jumping around here like banshees going, oh, that's such a great idea. However, in the last 2 years...
We really look like banshees?
Yeah, like banshees. However, I saw the tape too. I was also sitting here. However, in the last 2 years, I've never once heard Mr. Hearns bring up the fact that he wanted to see In God We Trust in the back wall. So
I guess we could ask him.
He's a bishop, so I mean, come on.
Okay, can you make room for the possibility that sometimes we just have to disagree, and it's not intended to push anybody out?
Yeah, I feel it is.
And I'm sorry you feel that way.
So far, it's 42% of the people.
Because quite honestly, I kind of enjoy your comments.
I'm glad you do. I'm glad you do.
But I've missed you at the walk with the mayor. I haven't seen you.
Why? You weren't there the last 2 times anyway.
I was too. I was there this morning.
This morning? I was asleep. I'm like yourself. I have insomnia too. So I don't get very much sleep myself, and when I get a chance to get to sleep, I do. However, myself, I don't quite feel like going out and being with you in your walks in the morning because I don't quite feel I can get anything accomplished.
Well, we might even get to like each other. You never know.
I doubt that. I doubt that very much.
Well, if you ever decide you want to come, I'd be happy to walk
Like
with
this
you.
for the back wall?
Obviously, I would not, and I'm sorry that whoever did that
Well,
did that.
that's okay, because I'll sell it on eBay and...
Hey,
okay. And I'll sell it and tell them exactly why I'm selling this thing and why I made it up, and I'll donate the money to the homeless shelter myself.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Zink?
First of all, I wanted to congratulate the mayor on his election and the new city council members, and I wanted to thank the council members that were on the council and past council members too for your service to your community. I think it's I know you take a lot of your personal time and everything out to serve this community, and I want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
What I come here tonight is because I'm really worried about what's happening to this community. I've seen, and it's regarding oil, really, and gas prices and stuff like that. We have 50, 60,000 people commute down the hill every day, and I'm seeing it destroy families. I'm seeing it, people having to sell like extra TVs and stuff just to pay the bills, and it just seems like nobody really cares. I don't really think oil's a problem. I think it's a lack of leadership from the president and the Congress. I listen to CNN, Fox News, CNN, NBC, and I hear them talking about gas prices and everything like this, but I don't hear them talking about communities like Lancaster, where the majority of the people commute down below to work, and how this is really affecting people. I mean, I have people that are hurt because they can't go to the place where they worship because they're worried about gas prices and stuff like that. This is ridiculous. This is bringing a lower standard of quality of life to the people. This shouldn't happen to the greatest nation in the world. This shouldn't even be an issue, and it's because of the lack of leadership. And I would like the City Council, Lancaster City Council, and perhaps Palmdale, to bring it to a national attention how this is really hurting this community and other communities across the country. There's no reason for this. We need leadership and we need vision. And if it has to come from the bottom up, then that's what needs to happen. And I'm asking you guys to take the time to, contact CNN. I don't know how you guys are going to do it, or if you're interested, or what you want to do. But what I see going out there, people getting divorced, kids, parents yelling at each other over bills and stuff. You hear it at night. I live in a townhouse complex, and you hear families yelling, and you can hear it. And it's really bringing a lower standard of living in America. And I would like to see you guys do something. I know Newt Gingrich has a thing called American Solutions. He's doing a petition to open up the reserves and stuff like that. But like I say, I think there's enough oil, but it just needs to. We need leadership. We need George Bush to stand up and say, we're not taking this. If you don't give us the oil, we're going to get our own oil, and we're going to open up our reserves and bring the prices down right now, because this is not right. I want to talk about other things too, if you allow me the time. And basically, it's a vision of what I see for Lancaster, and basically Lancaster Boulevard. I would really like to see on and off ramps at Lancaster Boulevard.
I'm now in a place where I would like to hear what you have to say, but if I do, then I'd be treading on the rights of everybody that's limited to 3 minutes. And I think that we
How many more cards you got?
We can't do it that way, but I would love to sit down and talk to you about this and have you come back to the next meeting. The reality is I think that the five of us are afraid of this oil thing because we don't know what to do about it.
Well, as Roosevelt said, there's nothing to be afraid of but fear itself. So
That's right.
It's time for somebody to take a stand. And
it is the biggest problem facing our community. It's bigger than the water problem. It's bigger than the gang problem. It is the biggest threat we have facing us, and we're open to any suggestion as to how we can help alleviate this. But we understand more than anyone that this is going to cause a migration of people from the Antelope Valley to downtown LA, and a migration of people here, because people have to live where they work now. It's a huge problem we have to deal with. It's not something we can deal with in 3 minutes. If you'd like to get involved in helping us with it, we would love to sit down and talk to you.
Okay, I just think that it's just somebody needs to stand up for what's what's going on, because it's just terrible what's going on in the community today.
And it's going to get worse.
It's going to get worse.
Yes, I absolutely understand that.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you. We now have council reports, starting with Mrs.
Yeah, if I could, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry.
After we were already, after we were already done with the budget, public comments and everything, he had put a card in late, and we are going to be having the budget and a public comment again at the next meeting, so this card was...
We're early. Come on down. Can't we do it? We can do it now, right?
It's up to you.
It's great being mayor. You know that?
How you doing? My name is Terry Wilburn. You can call me all any type that you want to call me. But two things. Well, there's a whole lot of things. But I'm going to try to make it in three. First of all, I sent $4 trillion for a new project along with the captain, and I spoke with the sheriff. And I've been working with the sheriff over 30 years, 88, 89. And in doing so, I do have new law enforcement that's coming in, and I do have, they do have Congress consent. And in doing so, some of my people is looking forward to coming in law enforcement and bring into more business. Now, in doing so, we're with oil companies as well, and I'm with the AME Church and the Catholic Church. If you want to know, I have friends of the evangelists, certain Baptists. Now, but what I see, my vision since 2005 that I seen in Lancaster and Palmdale, Victorville, all the way over. It's a small draft right now, but my schedule will be, but to use Avenue, what was this? Bringing a whole downtown area in the Columbia and 10th Street and Surveil, and I sent these $4 trillion to this office for this to be brought back. Because in April, there was a problem with the college. Now, in the future, there are more colleges I know you're looking at. You don't have no competition in college, for right now, the university. But we're looking forward to bring my organization into your organization, which we're already in. The Green Line situation, my man is up?
You got about 30 more seconds.
Okay. And the NASA program, I know it was denied twice. Apologize for that. I apologize for May 1st. I was supposed to be in here, but I had death in my family, and some of y'all probably know. But my apology, what I'm trying to say, I guess. All right.
Thank you very much. Mr. Paul, I almost went past you.
Mr. Mayor and council members, thank you very much for getting me up here. I came mainly tonight to show off my beard. My wife is going to make me...
It has a lot of merit, you know?
That's how it goes. There's a couple interesting stories in the paper lately I liked. One was on the success of the traffic cameras, and that plays into what I'd like to talk about. There's no greater joy than to love and respect the law. When people have to obey the law, it's surprising that they do. The other has to do with the party car, and thank you very much for extending that. During the campaign, I had the honor to ride with the party car, and that was quite a feat. They shove you in the back, and it was just a lot of fun to go out. And I'll tell you what, I've broken up a lot of fights and attended a lot of parties in the supervisory role in my time, and you talk about long-term solutions, so I'd love to get involved in that and go out again and help any way I can. When I used to run into fights with 4 or 5 guys, and I wasn't worried about whether I'd stop the fight. That outcome was assured. I was worried about whether or not I'd make some friends. And that plays into the long-term solution part of it. You know, you have to be able to use power effectively and not turn people off and away from the law. So that's what I would help contribute, and I would love to get in there and ride in that car again. So good idea. I like the Section 8 thing. We're moving in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. Okay, is that it?
Yes. Council reports.
You sure now? We got them all. Okay.
Had all of them last time, too.
Okay, we have some reports from the council members, and we'll start with Councilwoman Marcus.
Okay, it's the report on the activities of the Board of Directors for the Antelope Valley Transit Authority. The AVTA is a distinct government entity and is created under a joint powers authority agreement between the City of Lancaster, the City of Palmdale, and Los Angeles County. Basically, the last meeting that was held on May 27th, there were 3 events that took place that were substantial. We authorized the executive director in an amount not to exceed $300,000 for their Phase 2 in the construction plan. Authorized the executive director with the Trapeze Intelligent Transportation Systems, ITS, implementation for $215,600. And then the last was authorized a contract extension with CPS Human Resource Services for 6 months for an amount not to exceed $50,000, as AVTA has no in-house human resource staff. And the rest of it was pretty much routine. But I appreciate the opportunity to sit on that board and to learn. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Smith?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. The AKMD met May 20th, and
what's the
reports? The Air Quality Control Management District, Antelope Valley Air Quality Control Management District, which was pushed by the late Senator Pete Knight to put together so we could have our own JPA up here. The reports, they're added to your folders, but I think one of the things that the report misses that I'd like to bring out is that for the past year we've pushed to make sure that we maintain a fiscal stability while not increasing fees. And so this time around, even though the AQMB has the ability to raise the fees to businesses by 14%, we only did it by the cost of living of 3.5%, so that we encourage businesses at this time, at this economic downturn. So I think that's the biggest significant part of the AQMD budget.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Cilio.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 2 items. First was the Edwards Air Force Base Restoration Advisory Board, which I attended for the first time, and rather than drag on about trichloroethanes and what happens when you pour chemicals into the ground and how it degrades, I will simply let the council members read that report if you're so interested. The other item is the activities of the District 14 of our sanitation district. Just a couple of items. Things are moving along in terms of the updates at the water reclamation plant, increased power service that will be necessary when the new facilities come online to meet their requirements from the Lahontan Regional Water Control Board. We also held a public hearing, probably the last public hearing, regarding proposed eminent domain action so that the sanitation district could acquire all the land needed, again, to fulfill their requirements with Lahontan. And those are 2 necessary items to make sure that they're not in violation of the Lahontan requirements, and more importantly, so that our city can get the reclaimed water that we so desperately need. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cilio. Any other comments from the council? Okay,
we have one. I wanted to see if I could get a consensus from the council. We're moving forward on the Water Ad Hoc Committee, and we've been talking to staff. I've also been in contact with some council members down in Palmdale, and they had an open discussion. They're going to, one of them is going to put it back on to actually get 2 of their members on the ad hoc committee. But one of the things I see is that we are going into a drought. The governor actually announced it. And one of the first things that I'd like to do on the ad hoc committee is to look at an emergency ordinance for water conservation and water waste. And this would include, and let me be clear on how we're going to approach this, how I'd like to approach it, and get a consensus from the council on this, is that it's not going to be as much as enforcement driven as it is participation driven, but we have to have some kind of enforcement there. So that would be time, duration, and frequency of the watering of lawns, the restriction of washing cars, excessive runoff of driveways and sidewalks, and some other ideas that have come up, and I'd like to discuss it with Palmdale because it really is a regional problem, and we have to do something. If we wait too long, summer's going to be over. So we will have to do something. So that's going to be the first discussion on the ad hoc committee, and I'd like to just get a consensus from the council that you'd like to go forward on an aggressive water conservation emergency ordinance.
Absolutely.
Speak on that. I got to write a card up. Can I just walk?
Yeah, you got to write a card up. Just throw your name on it real quick and... Okay. No. Fill out the card, and then you got to come to the podium, and I guess it's a lectern, isn't it? Not a podium. Yeah. The city attorney doesn't know if it's a lectern or a podium. As Justice Judge Manny Reel says, you put your foot on the podium. You know, any lawyer worth his salt knows that a lectern is something you stand at. And the reason I know that is because that's what he told me.
The only thing I got to say about that is I agree with him. We have to have water restrictions, but let's start with the city first, because I see so much water wasted by the city for trees. I know it's for beauty, but you know, beauty be damned. We're having a water crisis. And if you just got to go down Division Avenue and go into that one area where the trees are in the middle of the road and the water's just flowing all over the place. If you want to start somewhere, let's start with the city and let the citizens have to work with it too. That's all.
No, absolutely, I agree with you. One of the things we've already talked to staff is the city's doing an assessment, not only of the landscape watering district, but all of our facilities to make sure that we're in compliance before we're forcing anybody else to go into compliance also. So that's something that we're already working on. Thank you for your comment. So I'd still like to see if I got, I guess, a few head nods, maybe from Councilman.
Well, what I really want to see with this is really an outreach to the citizens to get involved in this. This is going to affect their lives, and there is nothing on the horizon right now except the fuel, except the price of fuel, that is going to have this great of an impact. And what I don't want to see is when we finally come up with a decision and these are the rules we got to play by, people getting terribly upset because they didn't have the opportunity to participate. We're asking you to participate in this. Let's put it on the website. Hopefully we get it in the newspaper. But this is a community problem. It's not a city problem. And the quality of our lives is going to change dramatically if we don't stop wasting water. So.
Communication is a big part of this whole effort in the ad hoc committee. In fact, our staff has already been starting to work on it. Liz Brubaker has created some door hangers that code enforcement has been seeing. If you have a sprinkler that's running, broken, or other aspects of code enforcement, we've been putting it out there with a notification. So there'll even be a bigger effort for education and bringing compliance in with the public.
And Mr. Bozigian, I did get an email that the water fountain at the train station, the Metrolink, is running 24 hours a day, and they've complained to numerous people. Perhaps we can get that fixed. It's a small thing, but that's really what we want. We want reports of any situation, especially that the city can control. If we don't have the intelligence of where it's happening, we can't fix it. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Mayor Paris, may I say one thing? With the In God We Trust, we asked for donations, and I found out from Barbara Boswell, unless we've got another update, that we had approximately $905 that have been donated so far towards that, and I really appreciate it. And the other thing is that those people who have donated to that display will be appropriately memorialized, and we don't know if that will be with a plaque yet or just what, but I wanted to let people know that we're still accepting donations on that and appreciate those people that have already donated towards it. I also want to say is that when the Daily News called me and told me that Ms. Phillips' home had been vandalized, graffitied, Ms. Phillips had attended a couple of my performance measurement committee meetings under AV War on Gangs and Crime, so I knew I had her phone number somewhere. So I went through my records, I found her phone number, and I called her, and I told her how sincerely sad I was and disappointed that somebody had done that. The only thing that later on I found out more details was that I was just glad that they hadn't done any real permanent damage. It was done in the backyard. I mean, that's trespassing. I don't condone it in any way, shape, or form. And I told her that, and I told the Daily News that I condemn it. She's got just as much right to her opinion as I do mine. But I was glad that there was no real damage done. There was trespassing, and it was offensive to her, and I hope that everybody here and listening knows that we will not put up with that. That's unacceptable, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we're adjourned until June 24th at 5 o'clock. Thank you.